Senator Gallivan.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. Thanks for your patience. I have only one question, and that is in the area of the email consolidation, which you testified to, and I know that you've publicly talked about increasing efficiency. And we've seen in recent days in the news, media accounts, about the purging of the policy, I think implemented in perhaps 2013, of purging emails of state employees older than 90 days. The concerns that have been raised publicly are accountability, the transparency and accountability of New York State government. Could you please comment on that?
Certainly. The 90-day retention policy was actually implemented in 2013. And as we move to consolidate those outdated and expensive and incompatible systems into a single cloud-based system that I mentioned earlier, as the migration was completed, the existing policy is being applied to those new systems, or that new system.
Yes, but do you have the criticism publicly from good government groups and others raises questions about that this flies in the face of transparency in state government and the accountability of state government to the citizens that it serves. And I'd ask you to comment on that, whether you agree with that or disagree with that, and why.
In my experience, the policy is consistent with generally accepted practice, and I do support the policy. It's also a matter of actually encouraging good behavior, prudent and responsible use of state resource. I'm old enough to remember when your inbox was actually for papers on your desk. And I think we'd all agree that if a matter languished in your paper inbox for 3 months without responding to it, that wouldn't be appropriate. And the same is true in the digital era. We want to encourage staff to be responsive to their colleagues and to citizens. And so, if something is in your inbox unattended to for 3 months, it can probably go.
So do you share that concern that this decreases the transparency and accountability of state government to its citizens?
I fully support the policy, sir.
All right, thank you.
Senator Krueger.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on, I'm sorry, Assembly Member, do you have questions first?
Thank you, Senator Krueger. It's frightening I'm in charge, just so you know. May I say you are the most pleasant-sounding witness we've had all day, and I enjoy it immensely. I want to follow up on Senator Gallivan's questions, and I want to ask this as it relates to FOIL. First of all, I think if the New York Assembly announced tomorrow that we were going to take up this policy, Pre-Pereira will be at the court door making sure that we did not. So what about FOIL? What about the ability of citizens to access information that has been deleted? And I'm really bad at technology. I wish I wasn't, but I'm much older, and my age is much older than how bad I am in technology. But I can't find anything. I can't buy anything. I've never bought anything on the internet. I'm just really bad. But it has become now that process of communication between elected officials and staff, between a variety of people in government, is almost exclusively done through the email process. And sometimes things don't become relevant/important until after that 90-day period. So isn't there some, at least legitimate concern that the time period that you're suggesting eliminates the ability of review and scrutiny of decision-making?
Well, the policy does allow for exceptions for litigation holds and, of course, for FOIL. Indeed, all my email is available for FOIL purposes. And so those can be retained for longer than the 90-day process. So anything that is subject to legal hold or FOIL is retained.
Right, except that litigation doesn't start in 90 days, ever. So you're talking about, causes of action which may have a 3-year statute of limitation or maybe more, where somebody's going to come along and, a whole 5 months later say, look at all this stuff, we have to go and bring this case, and the information that is needed to provide the information is gone. You don't seem to be concerned about that.
all I can say is that I fully support the policy, and I believe that under previous email systems where actually the amount of email retained was limited by the size of your mailbox, you would have been subject to the same issue, I believe, sir.
Well, I'm not sure that that's a really sufficient answer. We spend a lot of money and hire people like you because the capacity is growing and the information is growing, and so obviously we can't grow into a newer world of communication strategies without acknowledging the other parts of the world, which is there's litigation, there's law, there's the ability for groups to know what's in that information. I think that you folks need to take a little closer look as to whether or not there are real risks involved in implementing this policy.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Krueger.
Thank you. We're all following up on the same issue. So in your testimony, you're very proud of the fact that the state is expanding, or it has rolled out a single suite of tools that allow staff to securely access email, documents, a statewide address book, calendars, et cetera, bringing us into the 21st century. Wonderful. You're an IT expert. You would agree that it's not a big deal to have the storage capacity for emails, for state employees, for extended years. Would you agree?
Honestly, I think I would return to the fact that if you've got something unattended to in your
Can you get closer to the mic?
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. It's important to understand that the deletion policy applies to inbox and those already marked for deletion. So if someone has decided to retain emails because they're required for future reference, they can be retained. And so that's in line with normal practice. I mean, I'm just thinking back to my email hasn't been around for 40 years, but my whole experience in use of email systems, that this would not prove to be a hindrance on my normal business processes.
So if you were dealing with constituent complaints in one of endless numbers of agencies, and you just weren't going to get to solve that problem by the 3-month mark, you should just go ahead and delete that complaint?
No, I'd take steps to make sure that I retain the information, and the policy does allow for that.
I want to believe that every single employee of New York State government is perfect in intent and application, but I would suggest that significant numbers of times things get behind, complaints don't get followed up with. We can actually go over wait lists of complaints and inquiries in specific agencies being years behind. The state controller's done a number of them recently on a number of agencies. This policy seems to encourage people to disappear the problem rather than systemically solving the problem or individually solving the problem. Would you agree?
I would hope not. I'd hope it would do the opposite, as I mentioned earlier, that would encourage responsiveness to both colleagues and to citizens.
Why? If you disappear the email, it's all gone. There was no complaint.
Well, I hope that people will make sure that they deal with things within 90 days. It's 3 months. I think that's ample time for people to deal expeditiously with any incoming mail. In fact, I would hope they would deal with any such matters much faster than that.
Isn't part of the purpose of consolidation and centralized data and tracking to have systems in place that make sure things do get taken care of instead of buried under the rug?
That's really a matter for the individual agencies and the commissioners. And from what I've seen as I meet with different commissioners, they all take their service to citizens very, very seriously and had in place business processes to make sure that they deal expeditiously with all matters that come to them.
And in the memo you're referencing implementing, does it specifically say commissioners can choose to not follow this policy because it wouldn't make sense given the tracking that they are trying to do of their own systems and their own workers?
No, I think any agency can ensure that their staff are so trained that any incoming emails are appropriately saved. I think that's really a matter for every commissioner to make sure that they do that.
So you believe a commissioner could override this memo and make a different decision for their own agency?
I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. It's not a matter of overriding. It's a question of making sure that any incoming mails are appropriately saved and filed away, just as you would with physical letters.
You said that you think this is common practice. Can you tell me any other government anywhere that has a policy to delete all their emails within 90 days?
Well, I'm aware that some other states actually have a shorter time period, but I'm not sure of. I haven't surveyed all states.
Could you do that and get back to us?
Surely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Flanagan, I appreciate you being here. And I'm a little bit like Assemblyman O'Donnell. Technologically, I'm a good listener, but not a good practitioner. So following up on some of the things that were said, I saw part of an article this morning that said we have capacity to save up to at least 30 years' worth of data in a general capacity. So would you agree with that?
I can't comment on that, sir, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry?
I don't know the exact number.
Okay, you have a rough guess?
I wouldn't guess, I'm afraid.
Okay, I would appreciate it if you could come back with a direct answer as to, now, I'm reading this. Just because I read it doesn't mean it's accurate.
Sure.
But the contention is that it was 30 years. And the benchmark that was mentioned in this article was that this federal government has a policy of maintaining for 7 years. So if they're doing 7 years, do you believe that that is appropriate?
I can't comment on other people's policy, I'm afraid.
You have to bring the mic in closer.
I'm sorry, I can't comment on anybody else's policy.
All right, well, let me ask it this way. If you got a directive or you came up with a recommendation, it's within your purview, I would imagine, to say, I've reviewed this with my team, and we now believe that 7 years is appropriate. Do you have the discretion to do that?
I'm not sure it's helpful to deal with a hypothetical. I would consult widely with commissioners and other users of the email system.
Okay, well, then let me ask you this. If you don't want to delve into a hypothetical, who made the decision on 90 days?
It was already in place, I'm afraid, so I don't know. It was the decision and the policy was put in place in 2013.
Okay, so you're not sure about the 30 years, you don't want to opine on the 7 years, and you don't know who came up with the 90-day policy.
That's right, sir.
Okay. Now, this is where my ignorance becomes apparent. When you talk about deleting, I heard you make a reference to the cloud. These emails that get deleted, are they permanently gone, or are they stored out in some universe that we're just not aware of?
No, they are deleted.
Permanently?
Yes.
Okay. And following up on what Senator Krueger said, ultimately, you and your staff in your office oversee all of these systems.
Indeed.
Okay. Do you have the wherewithal and the authority to go and say, I'll just pick out, and I'm not trying to pick on any agency, I'll just say Department of Health or OPWDD, your team goes in and does a review and says, we only have like 10% compliance, so we're going to send out a memo that if this is not done in its entirety in 60 days, we're going to wash the whole system ourselves.
Compliance with the 90-day policy?
Correct.
Oh, that policy is implemented centrally because we have a single email system. It's
so
not...
if I'm a line employee in the Department of Health, and there's a 90-day rule,
yes.
Technically you're telling me I don't have to do anything because it gets done for me.
Yes.
Okay, and what if you have arguably quote-unquote folders? It's not necessarily right in your inbox, but you create a folder on case number 1. Is that considered just in the inbox, and does that get deleted?
If you create a folder in which you want to retain emails for a longer period, you can do so.
But I would imagine it's still within your power to override that and delete those emails.
That is not what the policy says right now.
But is it within your power to do that?
Technologically, yes, but that's not what the policy says, and what I'm doing is implementing the policy. We'd have to change the policy to make that happen.
Okay. I would appreciate if you could also get information as to who made the decision on the 90 days, and frankly, do we have any emails that kind of underscore that, so we might be able to take a closer look? I dare say not, considering 90 days has passed, but
Certainly.
thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Hamilton.
Thank you, Chairman Flanagan. I just wanted to say hello, how are you doing today? I'm new to the Senate, so I'm using the computer technology in our office. It's fairly decent, and I know you want to combine the state offices on one platform. Now, as a state senator, would I be able to log into other agencies that are part of my committees to see what they're doing?
I'm afraid ITS doesn't support technology for the legislature.
Say that again, please.
ITS doesn't have responsibility for technology for the legislature.
No? For the state agencies, though, right?
That's right.
Agency, but as a state senator, would I be able to get access or no? No?
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, then that's all my questions. Then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.